You know, I was expecting my theater to be empty, but it turns out there was a good number of people that showed up to watch this movie. And I'm glad to see more folks coming out to pay for these kinds of movies because we don't get enough of these anymore. Now that we're past the 10-second mark, I can tell you guys that this movie is fucking visually and audibly insane, man. Oh my God, it was pretty fucking spicy. It's got this like 80s retro vibe going with it, with the colors and the film grain, just everything overall, how it's shot. God damn, this is a sexy ass movie. Maybe a little too much. You could tell they're just really trying to make sure that every single shot looks colorful, but honestly, I don't mind it, especially when they're on a whole other planet and it just looks and feels like a whole different alien planet. This movie just felt like an amazing combination of so many horror films we've seen before, but done in its own way. Some of this stuff reminded me of that video game Returnal. If you guys haven't played that game, please check it out. It is totally badass. We follow Rhea, portrayed by the beautiful and one and only Eiza Gonzalez, who wakes up on a mysterious planet and discovers that her entire crew has been slaughtered. Brian, portrayed by Aaron Paul or Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, arrives at the station to help save the team, but it seems like there's a whole lot more going on that we don't know about. There is only so much oxygen they have left in this station, so they must get off world and into the space station that is outside the atmosphere. But why is her crew dead, and is there potentially an alien life form that's threatening them? I guess you'll have to find out. I can't seem to find the budget for this film anywhere, but Google AI says it's about 330 grand, so I guess we'll just go off of that. And boy, oh boy, do they use every single penny just brilliantly here, because it is a goddamn good looking movie with so many ideas. Of course, 80 to 90% of this movie takes place within the station where the crew is slaughtered, but the moments where we get to see outside of it, exploring the planet, fucking awesome. And I'm gonna allow this movie to have excuses because it is an indie film project directed by a guy named Flying Lotus, a pretty new and fresh director here whose style is very much on screen. Not that I really recognize his style, but from the looks of it, I'm assuming this is very much what he wants. This isn't his first rodeo, but it seems like his first next big step into the industry. And he puts forth a very stylistic film that will definitely leave you with an impression. The performances by Eiza Gonzalez and Aaron Paul are pretty solid. I wouldn't say there's anything that they were given that allowed them to really shine, but they do exactly what they need for their characters, for this story. I will say though, I did get annoyed of this acting direction given to Eiza Gonzalez. She always just looks like she's, you know, just like drunk or tired, just always wobbling around. Like she just can't manage anything on her own. Every other scene, she's just like, I'm struggling, I can't get up. I don't know what it is, but I felt like every single other scene featuring Eiza, she was just constantly just unable to stand up properly. The rest of the crew and their performances are just as solid and do exactly what they need to help fulfill their roles. I can't ignore my main man, Iko Uwais. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, I'm not too sure, but the man's badass and he gets to do a little action scene, of course. He just has to because he's badass. Even though he didn't really get that big of a role, he portrayed, I believe, the captain of the crew, and you know, that's enough for me. That's good enough for me. What's the story though? Is the writing here any good? Is it worth your time to feel invested in what's happening? Yes and no. For what I would consider the first half, or maybe just the first act of this film, it was pretty exciting. It had me just already hooked as to what's going on. This is very much an Amnesia-like kind of story, so it had me excited to see the layers be peeled back the more Eiza is remembering about what happened to her crew. So when Aaron Paul arrives and he's helping Eiza regain her memories, clean up the place, and figure out what's going on, there are some really interesting revelations that we slowly get here and there. But there is a very strange lack of urgency within our characters. Now, of course, this could all be explained by the twist at the end of this movie, which I don't think anyone was all that surprised by, but it still doesn't really explain why Rhea just isn't so eager to try to just, you know, suit up and be prepared for whatever that's gonna happen and try to get out of there ASAP. What are Rhea's motivations? She wants to stay to hopefully regain her memories or maybe be able to save a crewmate that's currently missing from the station? Everything has gone to shit, and this movie's lack of explanation for Rhea's desire to stay honestly affects my believability in her as a person, as a character. That's not to say there isn't any characterization for Rhea here. She had a relationship with one of the other crew members, and that was a nice little thing to help us learn a bit more about her. But overall, I just wasn't invested in anything that was kind of happening because it really did just slow down. They're just kind of chilling and waiting for their station to be lined up with the space station so that they can get off world. To simply put it, it just didn't seem like the writers knew what to have our characters do to fill the time. They're just kind of sitting, moping around and trying to figure out whatever that's going on, but they don't really figure anything out. And the jump scares are just flashbacks of Rhea's crewmates' faces? I mean, what? The first one got me. The second one was okay, and the third time it happened, I was just like, is this gonna be the rest of the movie? Thankfully, no. It stops right there. So as the story progresses, we learn what happened to her crewmates, and there is a very kind of lame twist that occurs that, you know, I just didn't care for and was not surprised by. But there is this really cool fucking sequence where I just can't talk about because it's gonna spoil it for you, but let's just say there may or may not be an alien life form talking to Rhea. Beyond that badass sequence, so the rest of this movie just felt kind of sluggish and didn't really keep me interested as to what crazy shit that was happening on screen. Still, beyond my issues with the storytelling and overall development of the narrative, I think it's worth your time checking out. This movie is just a fucking blast to sit through with the visuals and sound. It is insane. I know I've been saying that a lot, but it is so goddamn true. I was loving every single second of these insane sequences that I just wish we got more of in other sci-fi movies. Please don't miss out on this one. Give it a chance and just go show support for these indie films. All right, that's enough of me. I'll catch you guys next time.